Recording live from the lucky number 7 lounge. This is Dine Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled into episode 50, where we're going to do a little role reversal as we separate a milestone for this podcast, give you some Vegas news that we think is worth diving into, and of course, there's the drink of the day. But before we can get to any of that phenomenal content, we've got to bring in the founder of Dine Drink Travel and Dine Drink Vegas himself. Yes, of course, I mean the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who is always waiting on that limo to carry him away to his next Las Vegas destination. Of course, I mean Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you, sir?
I am phenomenal, John, mostly now that we are actually recording after about a half hour of technical problems. How the hell are you?
Yeah, I'm great. And I'm going to say this. If you don't like the drink of the day, you got nobody to complain at except the man in the mirror.
That's true, but I will find a way to blame you anyway. Like, that's a thing I do. You've seen me do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have.
So,
So, listeners, tonight we're driving into Old Fashions. And we do that fairly often in the drink of the day, but it's not just because we're lazy. The Old Fashioned is a great cocktail recipe to play around with different ingredients. At its soul, an Old Fashioned is a few ounces of a distilled spirit, usually whiskey, but it does not have to be. Some form of sweetener, some kind of bitters, an ice cube, and whatever garnish makes you happy. It's a pretty simple creature. Again, normally made with whiskey. That's, if you just say an old fashioned, you're getting whiskey, probably bourbon or rye, but doesn't have to be contained there. It allows for a great deal of variability. So from time to time, we will revisit because we want to do something unique. This time, we just wanted to be able to do whatever we do. So, Bill, I'm going to let you talk about your love of the Old Fashioned and tell the listeners how you built yours tonight.
so I like the Old Fashioned because it is the first regular cocktail that you taught me to drink. And my love of cocktails is your fault, and I absolutely blame you. But also because God specifically has said in the Book of Second Opinions that that the Old Fashioned contains whiskey, not opposed to any of the other weird things that you sometimes put in an Old Fashioned. I did use whiskey. I will say I always use a bourbon rather than a rye. And while we are going into role reversals later on, for this one, I didn't role reverse. For this one, I stayed true to the luxury lounge lane. And I used, for my bourbon, 3 ounces of Maker's Mark Private Label Select. And normally, I wouldn't use such a high-end whiskey for a mixed drink like this. But I was in a mood tonight, so I did that. I used 5 dashes of orange bitters, 5 dashes of Angostura bitters. I didn't use a truly John-esque amount of bitters here, but I used a lot of bitters. Some Collins Candied orange peel. In a normal, regular, everyday old-fashioned, I would simply slice off some peel of orange. But here, the Candied orange peel seemed appropriate. A couple of Amarena cherries, and a brown sugar cube. So it was a little bit sweeter than I normally made it, but this is also a higher proof whiskey than I normally use. And I'm not going to lie, John, this effect is phenomenal. I don't normally want to spend this much money on my Old Fashioned, and normally if I'm going to be pouring whiskey from a $75 bottle, I'm going to want to just taste the whiskey, but this one is phenomenal. So we'll talk about your drink in a second, John. But when you are making an Old Fashioned with whiskey, what do you tend to use?
Well, it really does depend on my mood. I think that going for a high-end whiskey is perfectly fine. If you like it neat, you'll like it as an Old Fashioned. Normally, and this is baller on a budget territory, when I'm making with bourbon, which is normally what I do, I tend to gravitate towards a bottled in bond variety. So something that's 100 proof, 4 years old. Old Granddad makes a great one. Evan Williams makes a great one. Early Times, Benchmark. There's a lot of good ones. Jack Daniel's bonded is great. Wild Turkey 101, which is not bonded, is also good. But sometimes I'll reach for Buffalo Trace or whatever. Maker's Mark Cask Strength is gorgeous. Maker's Mark 100 proof is also gorgeous. So I'll go somewhere in there between, say, somewhere between a $17 bottle of bourbon up to about a $50-ish bottle of bourbon tends to be my sweet spot, just depending on what I have on hand. If I'm going over $50 for the bottle, it's probably a special occasion.
So I would almost never do this. I did this because this is episode 50 of the podcast, and I am proud of you and I for sticking to this for this long. So no, normally I would pour a much cheaper whiskey than this. My normal everyday pour, if I'm just having an old fashioned because it's Wednesday and I'm watching TV, then Old Forester is my everyday go-to. And if I don't use Old Forester, if I want something sweeter, I probably use a Maker's Mark, which is a wheated whiskey or a wheated bourbon. But no, tonight I felt like doing, in honor of the episode this is, something more upscale. And I will say, this is legitimately fantastic. I don't know that it's better enough to spend the kind of money to do this on an everyday basis, but it's not every day that, I record the 50th episode of a podcast with my buddy. So listeners, if you get the chance to do this, I would. I would not make it the everyday drink. I would normally save a whiskey this nice for just sipping neat or perhaps rocks. And speaking of rocks, I poured it over one large rock because I'm a civilized Episcopalian. Those are the rules, and that's what we do in a situation like this. So, John, tell us about what your drink. What did you do, man?
So I went a little bit different. It is still hot out here in far west Texas, although it actually topped out, I think, at 89. We didn't crack 90, which is really weird for August. So it's not as hot as it normally would be. We generally would be in triple digits right about now. So it's nice, but summertime is still here. So I opted for rum. I picked up a bottle of Flor de Caña 12 rare cask rum. And I put a typo that said 18 in the run sheet. And this is not the 18. This is the 12, but not the standard 12, the 12 rare cask. It's a beautiful rum on its own. I've been sipping it neat all week. But I put that together with a big, heavy pour of Angostura Bitters, like about 5 or 6 good heavy shakes, about a bar spoon of Maraschino Liquor. And listeners, look, with an old fashioned, generally it's going to be a sugar cube or brown sugar or maple syrup or simple syrup. But if there's a really sweet liqueur that you enjoy, you can use that as your sweetener. Right? So I went with the Maraschino Liquor, which is not as cherry flavored as you would think it is. It's made with the cherry pit, so it's almost an almondy, nutty flavor with a little hint of that fruit in there. And did that with a dried lime wheel because I was going to add a fresh wedge of lime, and we were out. So we're never out of limes. Don't know what happened. Maybe because I dropped my 18-year-old off at college this weekend and I didn't do a good job grocery shopping when we got back late on Sunday night. But yeah, the rum old fashioned is really, it's a beautiful way to sip on a nice rum. I don't recommend this with a silver rum. Don't really recommend it with like a flavored rum or a spiced rum, but with an aged rum, really, really good. If you aren't super into tiki drinks, but you have a nice rum and you want to do something besides rocks or neat, try whipping you up a rum old fashioned. It really is beautiful.
So 2 things. 1, yes, it absolutely has to be an aged spirit. 2, I love Flor de Caña. It's probably my overall favorite rum, and I've had both the 12-year-old and the 18-year-old. Tell me a little bit more about this special 12-year-old rum that you're drinking.
So they call this rare cask, and I have not bothered to read the bottle to say why. Let me look real quick. I will tell you that, the bottle is actually signed by the master distiller. I'm sure that's just printed on there. It's auto pen. Let's stay out of the headlines with that. That's been a topic lately. And it really doesn't give you a whole lot of information about what it means by rare cask. Having drank the 12 fairly regularly through the years, I will say that this feels like a slightly more assertive, slightly more complex, but not very different than the normal 12. There's a difference. I would have a hard time putting my finger on it. Little more nuanced, a little more detailed. I quite enjoy this. I think it's a little more refined than the normal 12, but not as refined and well balanced as that 18-year-old, which is simply beautiful. And my God, the 25-year-old, Anyway, but the 12, very reasonable. I think I gave $55 for this bottle. Not an arm and a leg. Really nice bottle of aged rum. If you're just thinking about getting into aged rum, this is a good one to go with. I would say Dos Madeiras would have been another good call for this particular concoction, or possibly. Oh, you know what, Bill? I'm an idiot. That is not Florida Cognac. I screwed up big time. This is Appleton Estate. That is very embarrassing. I am not so drunk that I can't read the label. I just typed Florida Cognac reflexively. I'm looking at Appleton Estate.
I was kind of wondering,
listeners,
when you showed me that bottle.
Forgive me, listeners. Yeah, I screwed up the drink of the day. All right, there you go. And I promise I'm not drunk. I sounded drunk on the last episode. I wasn't drunk, but I had just taken a Benadryl before I had a beverage. So there's that. And I did the same thing tonight because West Texas allergy. So pardon me, although Florida Cognac 12 would have been a good choice. This was the Appleton Estates. Oops. Glad we fixed that.
Listeners, when John gets drunk in Vegas, good things happen.
Yes, but I can't speak this coherently.
No.
In fact, I often lose the power of speech altogether.
Yes, and then we all go to the prayer meeting. So I will close the drink of the day portion with this. Listeners, the Old Fashioned is a classic cocktail for a reason. It's a really good thing. On a normal basis, I would encourage you to not put a high-end whiskey in it. I would encourage you to use an aged liquor, whatever it is you're using, whether it is rum or bourbon or rye or whatever. Most of the time, I would use something cheaper than either John or I used tonight. But if you want a high-end drink, you can absolutely taste the difference, and this was better.
Yeah, and I will say some other wild card choices out there. An añejo tequila can be beautiful. And even if it's not well aged, believe it or not, an assertive mezcal with, say, Aztec cocoa bitters can make a really gorgeous old fashioned. But other than that, yeah, clear spirits generally no. I will say I've made Bill do this. The one exception to that I'm going to say is, believe it or not, if you're really trying to get to the heart of what a bitters does to a drink, you've got a new bottle of bitters and you want to figure out what it does, make you a vodka old fashioned, a neutral tasting spirit. Use simple syrup so that you don't have a flavor from the vodka or a flavor from the syrup. And then you really get the essence of that bitters, and that'll kind of inform how you use it. Not the best cocktail to sip on its own, but if you really want to know what is at the heart of a bottle of bitters, the vodka old fashioned hides no secrets. It
Fair.
Really does not. It's like a hospital gown. You're going to see what's in there, right? Whether you want it to or not.
Well, John, should we move on to our main story for tonight?
Yes, let's. So I thought it'd be fun tonight that we've taken on the persona of baller on a budget and high roller of the high plains, leader in the luxury lounge. And there's a degree of truth in that. You tend to be more upscale than me. We play it up for the podcast a little bit, but it is a fiction based very much in fact. So I thought it'd be fun to reverse roles. And Bill, I would like you to walk listeners through your baller on a budget tips. How does Bill budget in Vegas?
So I will do that. Before I start, though, John, do you want me to go through all 5 of these, or do you want to do kind of the point-counterpoint thing here?
I think let's let you walk through it because I like the idea of you telling listeners how to save some money, and then I'm going to tell them what to spend it on.
All right. So the first thing, listeners, is I would say that in Las Vegas, pizza is your friend. There is some world-class pizza in Las Vegas. Whatever the pizza place is there in the food court in the Aria and the Proper Eats Food Hall is phenomenal. There is pizza up and down the strip. There are 3 excellent pizza places in downtown, and they all sell by the slice, and they are really expensive slices. It can be $8, $10, sometimes $12 slices, usually about $8 or $9 slices. So it's not that it's a cheap meal, it's just that it's way cheaper than any proper restaurant in Vegas, and it's really good pie. So listeners, my budget tip number 1 for going to Las Vegas and enjoying yourself, pizza is your friend. They're open late at night, they're open at lunch, they are there for you. My second budget tip for going to Las Vegas is do your gambling downtown or maybe at the Treasure Island. The Strip is beautiful. The Strip is a lot of fun. The Strip is where all my favorite restaurants and most of my favorite attractions are. But the gambling odds on the Strip absolutely stink. Like, I almost don't gamble on the Strip anymore unless I'm going up to the Treasure Island. And there are a lot of other reasons to go to Vegas. You might be there for the local sites. You might be there because you want to have excellent cuisine. If you're there to gamble, don't do your serious gambling on the Strip. The odds are going to be worse, and that's going to cost you money. Third, in your room, I would absolutely get you a bottle of walking around bourbon or walking around whatever your drink is going to be. And to be clear, do not buy that from the hotel gift shop. It is going to cost you too much money. Buy it from the ABC stores or from the CVS. Honestly, the liquor library in the Las Vegas airport, right when you arrive at baggage claim, isn't a terrible choice. Whatever you do, though, don't go wherever your limo or cab driver wants to take you, because that place is going to overcharge you. But, I mean, buy a bottle, get some ice up to your room, get a few plastic cups in there, which you can probably permanently borrow from the casino. You're going to save a lot of money because, like Buffalo Trace in Vegas tends to be $35 or $40, which is overpriced, but not unreasonable. There are 17.98 shots of bourbon in a fifth. What that means is each drink is going to cost you about $2. So let's say you pour a double or triple. That is $4 or $6. Way cheaper than any bar is going to be, and I would do it. My fourth money-saving tip for Vegas is to go during the middle of the week. You can get some super premium upscale properties if you just go like Monday through Thursday, maybe Monday through Friday. You can stay in nicer places on a Wednesday than you can on a Saturday, and that is absolutely a money-saving tip. If your job gives you vacation, take some of it. Go during the middle of the week. And finally, and yes, this is controversial, and no, it's probably not what John meant, but I am, in fact, the leader of the luxury lounge. So I would say in terms of a budget trip, buy access to the VIP lounge. And here's why. So we've got a trip coming up to the W. I will get there 8 days from now. John will get there 9 days from now. And that VIP lounge costs me $75 a day. However, what it does for me is they've got a coffee machine, and a coffee at Starbucks is going to cost you $7 or $8 plus a half hour in line. Here, it costs you nothing plus 30 seconds of making your drink. You've got a few beers. You may have some wine. You've got some light snacks. You've got water. You've got sparkling water, things like Perrier. So in the particular case of the W or the Mandalay Bay, it's going to be $75 a night. Your net cost isn't $75. Depending on how well you use their services, the net cost winds up being, let's call it $25 or $50. Plus, then you get all the other services that come for the VIP lounge. So, John, before we move on to your luxury list, what do you think about my budget tips?
I think it's a phenomenal list. I think the only notes I have are this. Believe it or not, according to multiple sources, slots pay out better on the Strip than downtown. So if you're a slot player, the Strip is actually just fine. So that's one note I would have. Downtown's actually tighter on slot machines, but better on table games, and generally better on video poker. The other note is Bill mentioned the ABC and CVS store to get your booze, or Walgreens, or Target now. There's a Target on the Strip. Yes to those, but also pick you up from snacks. I don't know about you, Bill. When I've had a few Vegas drinks and it's late and there's not many places open and the ones that are open are expensive, having some, a bag of cashews or some chocolate or a bag of chips in my room, whatever you like to snack on when you've had a few, buying that at the same time that you get your alcohol. And if you like mixers, if you want to keep a Coke or a Pepsi or whatever in your room, iced coffee for the next morning, stuff like that. Yeah, the ABC, CVS, and Walgreens, use that for more than your booze.
So you are objectively correct, right? Like, that's the right answer, but that's kind of part of what I meant with the pizza suggestion that I made is the pizza places tend to be open later at night than my old ass is up anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So if I want a snack, I can get it. And I personally tend to not keep snacks in my room because I'm afraid of the diabetes eventually catching me. And if I keep snacks in my room, I'll eat them, which is not good for my long-term health. If I've got to walk down there, at least I've burned off a few steps, and I might simply have a slice of pizza rather than 3 bags of pretzels, cashews, and maybe some Pringles.
And I hear that. And for you, that's the right answer. For me, I get so snacky that I will violate the 11th commandment of Vegas, which is thou shalt not buy food from the minibar.
Oh, hell.
And when I'm at the point of Vegas that the minibar looks good, my little bag of snacks from the ABC store really saves me from racking up those room charges. If you've got the willpower to say no to the minibar, Bill's right. I don't. I've lost a lot of weight, but I used to be darn near 400 pounds. When I get to where I want a snack, I want a snack. And so, your mileage will vary.
It will. So, John, I think we've talked enough about how to save some money in Vegas, but I am genuinely curious about how the baller on a budget thinks you experience luxury in Vegas. So let's hear your luxury tips for Las Vegas.
So I'm going to go out of order what's on the run sheet because I hadn't seen your list. I'm going to start where you stopped. Buy access to that VIP lounge. As you pointed out, depending on how you use the VIP lounge, that can be budget neutral or a net positive. You could turn that lounge into a moneymaker. But I will tell you also, sometimes in Vegas, even if you don't use $75 worth of their amenities, or it's more at some other places or whatever, having a quiet space where I can get an adult or non-adult beverage sometimes is very serene. Having somebody I can talk to about a travel issue without waiting in line at the desk or the M-Life station is phenomenal. And the VIP staff is there for you. So I think Bill's right that you can make that a budget move. And I generally do. I'm the king of getting my money's worth. But even if you don't, I think you still want access to the lounge. And they're not all phenomenal, but having a lounge is better than not. So I'm going to say that's number one.
I am super proud of you, young Padawan. I feel as if you've learned the lessons from the leader in the luxury lounge.
I got to say, I was very hesitant. That first time that I went to Vegas and you and Mike booked that killer suite at Bellagio, I thought going through the side door for the luxury lounge at Bellagio was just pretentious and snooty. And I don't care anymore. Don't care. I'll put my nose in the air. I'll put my pinky up when I drink the Perrier or the machine-made latte, which is usually pretty good coffee, honestly. And I'm a coffee snob. But you're right. You made a convert out of me.
Well done.
Number 2 is this. If you're going to have a pool day, pay for the cabana. Right? To the point that I would say this. If you can't afford the cabana at your hotel, let's say you're at an MGM or Caesars property because you like those rooms better, and for your pool day, they want $500 to $1,000 for their cabana, and that's too rich for your blood. Hear me out. You are better off booking a cabana at an off-strip or downtown property, at getting into the Uber or Lyft to go do your pool day at another property, than fighting Marge from Boise for one of the free day beds where you bake in the sun because there's no shade, where the cocktail server gets there when they get there because there's no dedicated servers. Listeners, if you're doing pool day, you want a cabana. If you can't afford the cabana where you are, it is okay to stay one place and rent a cabana at someplace cheaper. Nobody cares. It's Vegas. If they got paid, they're happy. You want the cabana. Number 2, and I don't want this every trip to Vegas. I don't even want this once a year in Vegas. I might be okay if I never do it again because I've now done it 4 times. Once in your life, you want the prefix fancy French meal. It may not be your jam. Bill loves it a whole lot more than I do. But you know what? Everybody should try it at least once. Even if you ultimately decide that was way too much money and it wasn't for me, The experience is phenomenal. The service is phenomenal. You're going to taste foods and textures you've never had before. It's nice. They usually require you to dress up a little. You look better than the average slob on the strip. It's something everybody should do at least once, maybe every once in a while. I would also say this. Yes, take the free drinks when you gamble. Yes, have beverages in your room to save money. But once a day, just one a day, go to the fanciest bar on the property you're staying at. Sometimes, little tip, that might even be the bar inside the steakhouse for the property. Go into that bar and order a neat or rocks glass of your favorite spirit or a really high-end cocktail. Yes, on the strip, it's obscene. An average cocktail is going to be $20 anymore. You could drop $90 on a high-end cocktail. Can't drink like that the whole trip, but do it once, at least every trip, maybe once a day. So worth it. And then the last one is this. Pay a little more to get you a room with a view. Most of us, especially if you're over 40, you're going to spend more time in your room than you think. Sometimes, especially at night when the city is lit up and you can't handle the floor anymore, but you're not quite ready to go to bed, go back up to your room, put on some music, pour you that drink you have because you followed Bill's advice, and stare at your window and enjoy the view. That's a phenomenal perk that is worth paying for, every penny. All right, leader in the luxury lounge, how did I do?
John, I am so incredibly proud of you because I feel like I may have actually had an influence on you. Like we've seen how you, hold on just a second. That was, and I apologize for interrupting the podcast, but it turns out my 17-year-old, I'm assuming doesn't have life and death issues. Let me send him a text message back right now. I will probably to edit this out later on, but you know what the hell? I may leave it on, leave it in, so we can tell how you've influenced my trips to Vegas. Because I now do things like eat pizza. I now do things like go downtown. I now do some of the cheaper things. But everything you just said there is beautiful. I think the thing I want to emphasize the most, and you can't afford to, I can no longer afford to eat the French meal I want because it's become priced out of my range. But once in your lives, folks, you do need to let yourself have the really high-end French dining experience. My favorite is Le Cirque. My favorite waiter there is Martin. Literally, I've got the man's business card. And if you can't afford that, you can go across the street to Eiffel Tower. It's still fine. But if you're going to be a regular Vegas visitor, or if you're only going to go once in your life, yeah, that's a thing you need to do because it's a different sort of meal than you've ever had before. But yeah, no, John, I feel like you and I have influenced one another, and I feel like neither one of our wives can be truly happy with that result.
Probably not. I think I have to say that I've been more influenced by you than you have by me, but I'll know I've gotten through to you when you quit griping about the poop and pour, because the suite at the Golden Gate is a great value. It's a good room. I don't care what Bill says. And I'll really know I got to you when you finally agree for us to do the guys trip at Excalibur and we get the 2-room pimp suite in the Golden Castle. That's
I love how I live rent-free in your head, and you now bring up the poop and pour without me even mentioning it. So listeners, if this is the first time you've ever listened to our podcast, welcome. At the Golden Gate downtown, there is, in their suites, there is an area closed off by what looks to me like a shower curtain, and the bar and the toilet are both behind that shower curtain. And to John's point, no, you can't actually pour a drink from the toilet. No. But it is 100%. It is a poop and pour, and I'm not wrong.
You are, and you neglected the room has a fridge and a coffee maker, complimentary water. And the furniture in there is a little aged. It has that 90s, early 2000s chic to it. Super comfortable room, big spacious room. And all of them are themed like a celebrity. I stayed in the Tom Jones suite. It was quite nice. All right, enough of that. Let's jump into the news. So Scott of Idle Vegas reports that Caesars is rolling out a 280 to 1 bet whereby you are betting that you are going to hit 2 greens in a row, meaning it's a 00 roulette wheel and you're going to hit a 0 and then 00 or 00 then 0 or 2 zeros or 2 00s. And they are calling this, quote unquote, roulette's best bet. Even though anybody that has passed 7th grade math and can do probability knows the only one this is the best bet on roulette for is the house. This is a stupid way to waste your money. If you want to lose money that bad, just go take the picture with the showgirl. At least you'll have a picture with the showgirl. Do not. First of all, if there's more than 1 0 on the roulette wheel, if you see more than 1 wedge of green, walk away from the roulette wheel. God does not want you playing 00, 000. There's even a quadruple 0 now, allegedly. Don't bet a roulette wheel that has these things. But if you are going to bet that, don't bet that you're going to hit back-to-back zeros. No.
To your point, I mean, you're objectively correct. So to be clear, what you've got is 2 green spaces on this wheel, right?
Yes.
If you've got 2 green spaces on this wheel, then your odds of hitting that bet are 1 out of 361. I just did the math here on my calculator. If your odds of winning that bet are 1 to 361, and it is, pardon me, a 280 to 1 bet, then that means the house, whatever, you're giving about 25% of your money over the course of time to the house, which is a huge house bet. So yeah, I think Caesars is saying that's roulette's best bet for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not for you. Please do not bet this bet. All
no,
right?
that
Don't
actually
be that sucker.
That breaks my brain, and I'm the guy who makes the weird bets on craps.
I will say, and I can't remember who posted it, and for once, I don't think it was Scott. Somebody on Twitter was discussing the fact that they were trying to talk to people in Vegas, and there were people who were just convinced that having 00 or 000 was good for the player.
But that's stupid.
Yeah, because Americans don't math, Bill. We don't.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, in other news, which I suppose makes me slightly less sad, Scott also shared that Ellis Island is launching Boomer Sportsbook named after the owner's beloved dog, not the generation that posts too much onto Facebook. You've tried to get me excited about Ellis Island before, and I would certainly go to Boomer Sportsbook, but John, why do you love Ellis Island so much?
So I don't want to stay at Ellis Island, not unless they do a massive overhaul of those rooms. It's not a great hotel. I've never stayed there. I've seen plenty of pictures and videos. Ellis Island as a casino, though, is a lot of fun. The odds are good. I know that when a group of us went down there, Mike and Zero had a bad run. But
as did I.
Remember, yeah, you did too. There's a difference between you had bad luck and gambling at a property is bad. You can get lucky and win big at the worst odds casino in town. You can go into some place that has the best odds ever and still get run. But Ellis Island has downtown odds, only a couple blocks off the strip, like a 10-minute walk. They have a lot of very affordable food options, and the crowd in Ellis Island is a mix of locals and tourists, and it's fun. They are doing some updating because it looks a little run down, but they're working on that. They're investing in the property. So I get, when you and I went, the visuals were not appealing. We caught it mid-construction. That floor was old and sad. Haven't seen what they put in its place. Kind of felt like you were in the gaming room of a Flying J truck stop somewhere on I-20. I get the aesthetics. But I went back with a couple of buddies of mine, and we ate at the Front Yard, which is kind of the sports bar venue. Really great food, really affordable prices, super great service. Gambling there, the odds are good. They're about as good as you're going to get in a tourist place, unless you want to go to some out-of-the-way locals-only joint. I think Ellis Island has a lot to offer, especially the consumer that's trying to save a few bucks. Yeah, it's not super fancy, but it's fun.
I think that is fair. Well, what do we have next, John?
So Scott also said that the venue at the link called Dine Ross, as in Diana Ross, as in it's attached to their Disco World show, super cool pun, is now rebranded as the Dinah Ross Steakhouse because Link wants a steakhouse. But when you add the word steakhouse after you already have the word diner, I think you are confusing what you are, and it may be a great place to eat. I got to say, Caesar's Properties, if you're listening, is it a diner or a steakhouse? Pick one. Please pick one. It's confusing.
That is fair. That is not the same thing. That seems like pretty terrible marketing, and I suspect that marketing reveals some confusion underneath about what they are. Well, our last story from Scott at Dine Drink Vegas, because listeners, if you're joining us,
Vegas.
Vital Vegas.
We're not giving Scott our brand. Yeah.
No, in my defense, bourbon. But listeners, if you're joining us for the first time, we quote his news stories a lot. We're doing it more tonight than normal, but that's the thing that happens. Finally, he shared that there is now an AI-driven robot that's selling show tickets at the Fashion Show Mall. So, holy uncanny valley, Batman. John, do you care that you're getting your tickets from an AI-driven robot rather than a simple ticket kiosk or, those kind of carbon unit sort of things that you and I are?
I mean, I would try it for the novelty, and I suppose if you're not going to pay a human worker to be there, and if you can make the AI where it's more useful to me than the kiosk, okay. Like, I'm not bothered by this. I'm not excited about it either. I would say that generally speaking, I tend to book show tickets through the venue, especially if the show is attached to a property I'm staying at or in their ecosystem. If you're at an MGM property, let's say we're staying at Mandalay and we want to go see by Cirque du Soleil up at Bellagio, I'm going to buy my tickets through MGM because I want my reward points attached to that. Same thing with Caesars. If you're staying at Caesars Palace, but you want to go over and see the disco show over at the link that we just referenced, and you want to get your Caesars entertainment points, do it that way. But if you happen to use this service, it's Tix4. It used to be Tix for Tonight. Yeah, I guess it's fine. I'm not really moved one way or the other than the picture. If you haven't read the article yet, Bill, Scott makes a joke about it. He promises it's not a sex doll. If you've ever seen those really creepy news stories about people in Japan wanting to marry their sex dolls, it's kind of what it looks like. And yeah, that's not my bag.
So, listeners, I suspect that the I don't know how I would feel about buying something from that. Like, I'm fine with buying things from machines, and I'm fine with buying things from people. I don't know how I feel about buying things from machines which are pretending to be people.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's a little weird. I guess this is a brave new world we're living in.
Absolutely. Well,
let's jump into our last one of the day.
Go ahead.
And according to Fox 5 Vegas, visitor volume is down 11.3% in June. So we're not looking at the July numbers yet. That's roughly 3 million. Still, you got over 3 million people coming in a month. So let's stop for a moment. All the news stories that Vegas is quote unquote dead. You got these people that are going out at like 8 a.m. when nobody's out there taking a picture going, oh my God, nobody's at Bellagio today. It's 8 a.m. They're hungover. It's 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. No, they're not out there. That doesn't mean Vegas is dead. Vegas is not dead. 3 million visitors is a lot, but they are down significantly from the previous year. And interestingly, the Strip is being hit harder than downtown and off-strip properties. So Station Casinos is doing just fine. Downtown is down a little, but not a lot. They're doing okay. It's mostly the Strip. Bill, is this a price problem?
It is absolutely a price problem. What I love is luxury, but not luxury that thinks it's worth more than what it is. And we've talked before about the various obscene charges for things on the Strip. I will absolutely pay money for something which is nicer, but not money for something which is stupid. And that's what tends to have been going on a lot on the Strip anymore. Honestly, I know I mentioned it earlier in another context, but for our next trip, I kind of want to go to Treasure Island so I can still be in the locale of the Strip, but be in a place which is cost reasonable and still nice enough. So yeah, no, this everything about this story rings true to me, John.
I see your Treasure Island proposal, and I raise you the Rio because by the time we do the next guys trip next year, James Tree's High Stakes at the Rio will have had plenty of time to open its doors, work the kinks out, and be at full steam. You and I both enjoyed Esther's Kitchen. Can't wait to see what James Trees does with the steakhouse. And by that point, almost every room in the Rio will have been through a room refresh. So you're going to get the biggest standard rooms in Vegas, over 650 square feet per room, newly refurbished, nice stuff. I'm lobbying for Rio.
You know what? I will take your argument under advisement. Well, John, is that everything we've got news for tonight?
Bill, it sure is, and that brings this episode in for a landing. So, Bill, why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink travel content?
So, folks, if you want short and focused videos which help you plan your next trip to Vegas, you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel, where we tend to do things more like airport lounges, as well as what air travel is going to be like, including the lounges in the Vegas airport. You can also find us on almost every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel, except for Blue Sky, which for some reason I tend to be at Dine Drink Bill. John, where can they find you on the social media platforms?
I am Dine Drink John on Twitter. I'd be happy to talk to you about Vegas, about alcohol, about cocktails, about why the Dallas Cowboys are going to break my heart, and anything else you feel like getting into, especially gourmet coffee, because don't forget coffee too. We thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. There are a lot of podcasts out there, but you chose ours, and we really do appreciate it. If you've got a friend who's planning their next trip to Vegas, or an enemy that hates listening to old fat white Southern dudes talk for endless amounts of time, either way, share this podcast with them. You'll be doing us a favor and helping us grow a channel so that we can continue to bring you this content. And we'll catch you in episode 51, where we preview our upcoming Labor Day weekend trip. Until then, thanks for listening. Happy travels.